making diagrams with MySQL Workbench. Remember that making diagrams is not the same thing as making tables, but we'll do that in a separate video. So when you open up MySQL Workbench, you're going to be wanting this one with the diagrams. So if we click on that, you can add a new one by clicking on this plus sign next to models. If you want to change the name of your schema or database, just double click right here where you see MyDB, and you can name it something else. And there's no save button, but you can just close it and it will remember the name of the schema. And then we can just double click Add Diagram and use this to add tables. So this is the main, there's a lot of different buttons here, but the ones we need to focus on are just this one, and these ones will help us with relationships. So we'll click on the place a new table and just click somewhere on here. Double click the table, and then you can give it a new name. Convention is usually to give it a lowercase plural name. So let's say dojos, and we can come in here, and as many columns as you need, you can just double click in here and add attributes. So this check means primary key, and this is not null. We'll also check auto increment to make sure that our ID is auto incremented, so we don't have to keep track of it ourselves. Maybe a name and a location. And as we mentioned before, sometimes you'll want to have created at as a date time or a timestamp, and updated at. You can hit escape if you don't want that extra line, and that'll take care of it. Also, if you end up adding something you don't want, you can always right click on a column name and delete the selected one. A helpful tip for created at and updated at: if you want the database to manage the setting of the time for created at, you can set right here. The default is now. And for updated at, you can say now and on update now. And that means when a new row is created at will be set to now. When updated at will also be set to now. If the row is updated, only the updated at time will change to the current timestamp. So you can just close that with the X, and we've got ourselves a table. So if we have another table, we can click on this again. Same thing. Let's just make this one quick for demo purposes. And then instead of putting the foreign keys manually, we can use these tools to add relationships. If we want a one-to-one relationship, we can click on the relationship and then click on the one first where you want the foreign key to appear, and then the table to which it relates. If you don't like the name that it created for you, you can always double click on the table and change the name of the ID. Do know that when you use the foreign key relationship, those links, rather than doing it manually, it also adds these other details back here that, just for data integrity purposes, make sure that the foreign keys stay valid. Don't worry about that too much right now, but kind of know that that's what's important about using these relationship tools. If you don't like that, or if maybe that wasn't the relationship you wanted, or you did it in the wrong direction, you can always right click and delete. And it will just take all those off. So there's often a question about these two, why the dotted lines versus the solid lines. For now, don't worry too much about them. If you want to research a little bit more, if you notice, if I hover over it, it tells me this is an identifying relationship, where this one is a non-identifying relationship. If you want to read a little bit more about that, you can. But either one is okay for now. And then with one-to-manys, remember that you want to do it on the side with the foreign key first, and then the other side, and the first table that you click on is the one that will get the foreign key. With many-to-many relationships, it doesn't matter which side you click first, because, as you may recall, it will always create a third table which has both foreign keys in it. Again, If you don't like the names of the foreign keys that it creates for you, don't worry about them. You can always take them off. If you want to change the name of it, you can. If it's hard for you to come up with a name for the middle, just leave the default, and that's fine. Again, these are only diagrams of potential tables, but not actual tables on our MySQL servers yet, but we'll do that in the next video.